Cool. Hopefully that wasn't wasted knowledge, because that's good stuff. So hey, I want to welcome the live stream audience. Don't know where the camera is, but I'll give a little wave. Thanks for joining us. We're here in San Francisco at Foundation Center's office and the World Affairs Council space. So thanks to World Affairs Council for letting us use your great space. And today we're going to start with a bit of background about what youthgiving.org is and why we're all here, and then we'll actually spend the bulk of time hearing from a panel of people who are deeply involved in this work. So just to start, I want to just recognize for a minute, not just who's in the physical room, but who's tuned in online, because we know a little something about you all. We have young people. We have adults who support them. We have adults who are practitioners in philanthropy, in the nonprofit sector, in their communities, in government, and beyond. We have young people who are participants in philanthropy, in nonprofits, in social change, in their schools, and beyond. We have educators. We have researchers. We maybe even have a couple folks from the media who are kind of interested in this stuff. And what's really neat is that we're all kind of tied together by this idea that we're here to do good. We're here to do good in our communities. And you often hear people talk about youth participating as maybe a nice story. I like to call it a fluff story. So we might hear about a couple kids getting together on a Saturday to clean up a park. And that is an amazing way to participate in your community. And we feel that grant making is a very specific type of power where adults are saying, we're going to give you real money and then we're going to step back. And we're going to trust that you can go through an actual decision-making process to get things done. So what we're here to really celebrate is this budding movement of youth grant making. So just to pause for a minute, when we talk about youth grant making, the way that we've defined it on youthgiving.org is a little bit liberal. So the idea of youth is age 0 to 30. And part of that, I'm 29, so I'm technically youth, but part of this is internationally, especially. We have a lot of young people at the table and they define it as up to 30, and we want to be inclusive rather than exclusive, because it's the idea of young people actually stepping up to the plate to make change. And then grant making is the idea of actually granting funds from some sort of organized institution to another organized institution. So it's not necessarily emptying your piggy bank and just giving money, even though that's really great, but it's the idea of participating as a group and coming to decisions around where money should be distributed, making decisions through a process, and then giving that money away. So that's what we're talking about today when we talk about youth grant making. So why are we talking about youth grant making? I know a lot of you are new to Foundation Center, and there's probably a reason for that. So Foundation Center hasn't historically talked about youth grant making. We've looked at philanthropy, which might be a little bit of a stiff word where you picture a certain type of person with a certain type of wealth reaching into their pocket and writing a check. And while philanthropy is a lot more than just that, we also haven't quite expanded our definition or what the word philanthropy means to include some of the youngest grant makers and the ones who I would argue a lot of full-time philanthropy professionals could learn a lot from. So for example, I have seen some young people do a community needs assessment where they go out and figure out what a community needs smarter than a lot of foundations. I have seen that. And so at Foundation Center, which is a hub for learning and growing the social sector, whether you're a nonprofit organization or someone who's considered a funder or something in between, our mission is to grow it. And so we were remiss at not looking at young people who are actually growing it in some of the smartest ways and who are the future of the sector. So 2.5 years ago, we actually did a landscape scan, and that's a fancy way of saying that we looked around to see what's written about young people participating in philanthropy, what is the data tied to it, so what do we know about where young people are actually making grants, and what do people have to say about this? So what's the expertise, what questions are they asking, what stories are they telling, what are they learning? So we went out and did a look across the literature, the data, and by talking to people. And we learned, well, there's actually a lot more going on than anybody has ever surfaced. And part of that is a problem of transparency. So the nonprofit sector on whole, not that transparent. Funders, even less so. So less than 10% of foundations actually have websites, as an example. That's wild. And there's such a story to tell here about young people actually giving grant dollars. So a need that rose from that landscape scan is that we have to actually tell the story of youth grant making. And so we got funding and we built youthgiving.org, which is basically meant to be a hub for that story of youth grant making. So on it you can find funding data, you can find a blank screen, you can find expertise where you can actually learn from youth grant making experts, you can find resources and more. So as you can probably tell, I could go on about this for hours, but no one wants to hear me. You want to hear this lovely panel, and you probably want to tour the site. So to do that, I want to call up one of my colleagues. I've worked very closely. I have to just give thanks for a minute, right? It's always good to celebrate. So I've worked with a really great team here at Foundation Center, but in particular, I've worked with two really dynamic staff members, Amanda Dillon, who you'll hear from in a little bit. She's moderating our panel. And then Erin Nylan-Wysocki, who doesn't always like public speaking, but she's really good at it. So give her an extra round of applause.
Hey everybody. So I want to give you a super lightning tour of youthgiving.org and just the cool things that you can find on it that may be useful for you in your work. The first thing I want to show you is our Learn section, which I think Jen mentioned a bit about. It is powered by our Issue Lab platform. It's basically an online library of knowledge about the social sector. And in this specific collection, we have 242 resources that include case studies, podcasts, and videos that are, and other helpful resources that are related to different aspects of youth grant making and youth philanthropy. So say I'm new to youth philanthropy, I could go to this learning life cycle stage drop down here, click getting started, and then go. And I'd isolate all of the resources that might be useful to me just starting out in this field. So I have this Where in the World of Youth Philanthropy Do I Get Started guide, and then Engaging the Next Generation Family Philanthropy, plus a ton more other resources. And we also have a variety of different ways that you can filter these resources. So we have document type, organization type, audience age. So we really encourage you guys to dive into this to find some resources that may be useful for you. Another key piece of the site that I want to show you lives on our Connect page. And this is where we have upcoming events and a section called Hear from Experts, which is basically a blog where youth and adults involved in youth grant making answer key questions that may be helpful for others in the field to improve their practice or their programs. So as you can see here, we have a bunch of different blogs up here now. Why doesn't anyone want my free money? Why should I connect with others when I'm so busy? And a ton of other topics that folks involved in this field have answered. And then up at the top here, we also have a way for folks to ask a question that they want answered and be featured as an expert if they're interested in writing a post for us. So we encourage you to check this out also. And now let's head over to the Explore page, which is my favorite piece of the site. It has two of my favorite features, one of which is the program directory. And in here we have 839 programs. Those are youth philanthropy programs around the world. And we're adding more all the time. And this piece is so awesome because it allows folks that are currently engaged in youth philanthropy and folks looking to get engaged to find other folks to connect with in their area or similar program types to them. So say I wanted to search for all the programs that are in California. I could select California, click go, and then you'll see we have 57 programs cataloged right now. There may be more, but that's what we have, which is a huge number. You can scroll down, you can actually click on these program names. So say I want to click on Building Leaders in Innovating New Giving, or BLING.
Which we have here in the room, actually.
So we have their website. We have some key information about them, their model type, age served, annual grant making, their funding source, some social media information. And then down here at the bottom, we'll have a little get involved link if there's more information on the web for you to get involved or join this program, which is pretty cool. And you can also dig through this directory through a variety of other filters aside from location. So we really encourage you all to check this out and check out the programs that are located near you. The final thing I want to show you guys is the funding map. And this map paints a big picture of the youth giving movement from 2001 to present. It's loading. And this shows where grants for youth grant-making programs are going and where grants from those programs are going, so allocated by the youth themselves to their communities. So as you can see, in the total data set, we have over 5,200 different grants worth over $73 million to over 3,200 different recipients. And then if I click on this youth-driven toggle, this just isolates the grants that are coming from youth themselves out of those programs. And as you can see, it's the majority of the grants that we have on the map, worth $15.3 million to over 2,800 different recipients. And so that's really impressive. It's actually what's only been reported to us so far. We actually expect this number is much higher. And as we gather more and more data as the months go by, this is gonna just continue to expand and really paint a picture of what this field looks like. So say I'm interested in knowing what causes all of these youth-driven grants are going to. What are youth in this area funding? I could go to this little location filter up here, type in Bay Area. If I could type. Select Bay Area as a region. Then it's going to zoom into this region and show us that there's 245 youth-driven grants here, totaling $1.6 million. And then I could use this little snazzy feature over here on the left in our charts navigational menu. And this is going to show us a breakdown of what these issue areas are that youth are supporting in the Bay Area. So we can see that human services is one of the top issue areas, followed by arts and culture, and then health. And if you're interested in finding out what any of these mean, you can click into them. And this will break down what human services means, so youth development, special population support, family services, basic and emergency aid. This is all based on Foundation Center's philanthropy classification system. And if you're interested in knowing, like, what are these youth development grants, what were they actually for? You can click on these little links over here, recipients and grants, to find out more information. And the final thing I want to show you is called constellations, which is one of my favorite features from Foundation Maps. So imagine all the times you've been in the room with someone and found out that you're funding the same organization or you're receiving funding from the same organization. Constellations allows you to see those connections that you may not realize you have with one another, and also seek out new connections. So as you can see, this is a little bit small. The blue bubbles are funder organizations, and the green bubbles are recipients. So you can see that we have Youth Funding Youth Ideas on here, Youth Empowerment Fund, and Stanford University, which has a youth philanthropy program there as well. You can really dive into what these relationships look like by clicking on any of these bubbles. Then you'll see you can click on foundations or recipients or grants to see a list of what those relationships are. So you can really dive into this and find out a little bit more about connections you can make in your area. So that was a super brief teaser of what you can find on youthgiving.org. We encourage you all to share data and resources and expert advice for the site so we can continue to build this platform and really make it useful for everybody in the field. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague Amanda to kick off our panel session.
Great. Thank you so much, Erin. That was a wonderful tour. We hope that you're all excited. If you haven't gone onto the website to check out more, there's so much that information there that you can dig into. That was just really scratching the surface. So I want to welcome everyone again to our event today, and welcome everyone on the live stream. I think the camera's there. I believe there's over 100 people, if not even more than that, registered on the live stream. So there's a big actual audience virtually that is joining us today. We're really excited to be here to talk about how young people are making an impact in their communities in the Bay Area. I'm really excited to introduce you all to the panel that we have here on stage, and they're all representative of a youth philanthropy program from the Lick-Wilmerding High School. I hope I said that right. I might shorten it as we go. We have on the panel two students who are involved, two program directors, and also the program's funder. So we're going to really be able to go deep into one model type of youth philanthropy. One of the things we learned as we created this this website is there's various models, and actually that's really evidenced even by the folks here in the room. We had someone from a community foundation, we have someone from a nonprofit that does youth giving, so there's lots of different ways. Doing it through a high school is one of the ways, and so I'm excited to see how this program works for them. Before we get started, just another quick reminder that we're going to try to be really diligent with ending on time. So we encourage you all, for any conversations that you've started or that you want to continue, just to join us downstairs at the bar, restaurant, E&O. So without any further ado, I'd love to turn to the panel here on my right and just quickly have everyone kind of first go down the line and say your name and say how you're involved in the Youth Philanthropy Initiative at Lick High School. So why don't we start from the right?
Sure. My name is Eugene Han. I'm a senior at Lick-Wilmerding High School. I've been involved in the philanthropy class last year as a junior. It was my first time, and I don't think I'll get another chance because I already selected all my classes, but yeah.
All right, I'm Luke. I'm a current junior at Lick. I was involved in the philanthropy class last year, and yeah, I'm super excited.
My name is Bill Mellon. I'm the program funder. My daughter attended Lick-Wilmerding and graduated in 2011, so for the 4 years while she was there, and for a number of years thereafter, I also served on the board of trustees.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Wu. I'm one of the co-teachers of the Philanthropy Initiative course at Lick, along with my colleague here. I've been at the school for 16 years, and I also serve as their Director of Enrollment.
Hi, my name is Christy Godinez. I'm the Director of Student Inclusion, Leadership, and Civic Engagement at Lick-Wilmerding High School, co-teacher to the Philanthropy Initiative, which is one of our considered a public purpose course at Lick-Wilmerding High School.
Great, thank you. So why don't we start with Eugene? How did you hear about the program at the high school, and why did you decide to get involved?
Yeah, that's interesting because this is one of the classes that I never thought I would take. I didn't really see what I was going to do. I didn't have any expectations. I just thought it was a really cool class because people from last year said so, and I'm one of those people who believe in those stuff. So that's how I got involved. I think I would never regret taking the class. I think I will elaborate on that later, but yeah, it's just a
So kind of
matter
word
of
of
choice.
mouth, other students
Yeah,
told you that
yeah.
it was a good class.
Yeah.
That's great. What about you, Luke?
So every year before like the start of the next school year, we go through this online course selection thing. I never actually heard about the course before I saw it. I was just kind of going through, and I realized that I needed to take another elective, and I saw this course, and so I was like, all right, this is an interesting sounding course. I wasn't really into any of like the painting or drawing or any of that, so I thought this would be pretty cool. So I looked at it on the website. I talked to some people who took it last year or 2 years ago now, and it just sounded like a really interesting way to get involved. And coming from a more privileged background, I really wanted an experience of giving back, and I thought it'd be a really interesting class to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. So Bill, you said your daughter went to the high school. Can you tell us a little bit more about, why you thought this was worthwhile, doing through the high school format, and what kind of motivated you to start the program there?
Certainly. So as a parent and a board member at the school, I spent a lot of time at the school, and what I witnessed every single day was students being very internally motivated to make the world a better place. And the way that manifested itself was there was a lot of volunteerism, and there was a lot of reactionary fundraising to respond or react to crises around the world. So there were a lot of bake sales. There were a lot of T-shirt drives. There were a lot of food drives, but it was all very small scale, and it was also reactionary. But so what I saw there was a real natural inclination to try to do something to make the world a better place. And I thought, in my experience, there's more need in the world than there are resources to address those needs. So it's really helpful to be thoughtful about resource allocation. And also, by the time you really get to the point in your life where you can be philanthropic, you don't have the time often to reflect on what it is you care about and why. So I thought, let's harness the natural inclination in this student body to try to make the world a better place, and let's give them the time and some guidance so that they can go through the process of thinking about what do they care about and why. And what ought I pay attention to as I think about allocating scarce resources, whether it's time or money, so that I can be thoughtful in the allocation of those resources. None of this would have come about if I didn't have a great respect for the leadership of the school and the quality of the faculty that was going to bring this into existence. So there was a confluence of a number of things that really inspired my wife and I to say, yes, let's endow this program and see what they can make of it.
Wonderful. So Christy and Lisa, I would love to hear a little bit more about how you guys began to get involved in the program, but also if you had done any type of work related to philanthropy or grant making prior to the program as well.
I can start, yeah. So one of the programs at Lick-Wilmerding is our public purpose program. This is a fairly new program, but Lick has always been a private school with a public purpose. So a school that is looking at how we can partner with outside organizations and share the resources that we have with others. And our public purpose program is a graduation requirement for all of our students. And so freshmen are required to go through a workshop series where they learn about different aspects of service, philanthropy, why they should want to give and get involved. Sophomores have to do 40 hours. And then juniors and seniors have the option of doing an internship, an independent study, or a public purpose course. And so the Philanthropy Initiative is considered a public purpose course. It's getting students involved in real work and in their community. And part of my role as overseeing the Center for Civic Engagement is maintaining all the public partnerships that we have. So that really speaks to me is teaching students how to give of their time, because really that's what they have right now. They don't have access to money, but they do have access to time. So a huge component of the Philanthropy Initiative class is for over 1 month. They go and do service projects. They don't come to class. And what's so great about our location is that we're within walking distance to so many nonprofits and organizations that our students walk to these places, and they learn how to give of their time. And they learn that service is not about just having fun and doing what they want to do. Sometimes service means sweeping for an hour because that's what the organization needs of you.
I joined the program because I really truly believe in the mission and the vision of the school, which is to inspire our students and to teach them and the capacity and have the confidence to make the world a better place. And so the Philanthropy Initiative perfectly aligned with the mission of the school and gave our students real life practice and application of the skills that they were learning over the 4 years of their time at Lick. And my personal story is that I haven't been a philanthropist, but I've been a recipient of charity and philanthropy as an immigrant to this country. I'm a first-gen to college student, so I felt this was an opportunity for me as an educator to give back for all that my family and I have received, over the years. And it's been an inspirational journey to work with our students and see them have opportunities to know themselves better and to gain leadership skills. And again, the confidence to say, I have resources, I have power to make a change in my school, in my community, in the world. So that's sort of the genesis of how I got involved, and the vision that Bill and our former head of school, Dr. Al Adams, had is just a beautiful one. And they gave us such license and leeway to really shape the curriculum to what we felt best supported the experience of our students. So thank you for that. And to have such support is, super empowering as an educator.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I'd love to turn it back to Luke and Eugene and hear a little bit more about, what have you guys been learning about the grant making process, about yourselves through the program? What are some things you've taken away from your involvement so far in the program?
All right, I can start. So I think one of the big takeaways for me is that anyone can give if they have the time or the treasure or the talent. I think for me, when I first signed up for this course, I had this vision of philanthropy as some rich guy in a suit, as you alluded to earlier. No. As I was saying, as she alluded to earlier, a rich guy in a suit giving like a check to some random person, and that was it. But I think what I realized is that not just can youth give, but anyone can give regardless of the money. Every organization now we talk to is so passionate and so they really could use every fund that they could get, and I think that no amount of giving is too little. And I think that's a really good thing that I learned, and that I'll take with me the rest of my life. So yeah.
If there's two things that I would take away from this class is that first, it's not about who you give to, it's about what the recipient needs. And I think understanding that helped us become, we had 9 of us, and it helped us become more flexible in our choice in our grant making process, because there's we had almost 100 grant recipients or grant proposals, and it was really hard to focus on one specific topic or one specific person we want to give to. And because everybody had that flexibility and open-mindedness of we could give this to anybody, but really to the person who needs it most. So that's one. So the second one, I think, goes back to what Luke was saying of how it needs to be, you have to keep giving your time, treasure, and talent continuously. So it's not about just a one-time opportunity of, here, let's just give $20,000 to one grant. It's about that continuation of, and seeing how you as a person developed that technique or knowledge of grant giving. And there's one question that stood out to me during all this learning process, and it was that if you would give a person $1,000 just today, would you do that, or would you rather give $3 a day for a month? And of course, I would say, I at that time I said $1,000 just right now, because I thought that would make the most impact. But then what I learned is that, as Bill said, it starts now. I think maybe it's too late when we become adults and realize that giving is too late. I think it has to start now, and then we gradually learn how to give better and understand the mechanics and how grant giving works. So
Yeah. And I want to actually ask a question about, 100 proposals. That's pretty incredible. How did you guys kind of narrow that down? What was that process like?
Yeah, so that was, I think that was what I would say kind of was the most difficult part of this experience. So we got about 50 applicants who responded to our grant proposal, and we had a bit of a time crunch, so we had to read all of these. I think it was like 200 pages of stuff. We had to read that all in like 2 weekends. That's kind of rough. But the actual process of narrowing it down was, what I originally thought was that it would be pretty easy, but I didn't realize how many qualified, passionate organizations there are, truly. We were going through all these organizations, and they all sounded so wonderful, and they all had just amazing missions and amazing impacts. And it took a lot of spirited debate and a lot of disagreements. But I think that's kind of the messiness of the process. I think in any team setting, there's going to be disagreements, and there's going to be agreements, and it's going to take time. But I think one of the things that kind of wove it together was that we were able to work as a team, and that we were able to respect each other's opinions, and that we were able to put out all of our opinions, and I thought that was really what brought it all together. Yeah.
One thing. What was also special about our group of 9 people was that everybody came from really different backgrounds, and we could see people from Oakland, we could see people from the Peninsula, San Francisco, and I think that played a major role in where we want to give, because if we had just a group of 9 students from San Francisco, we wouldn't have understand the organizations from Oakland, from Richmond, and that really helped me understand where people are coming from and what people need, and not just focusing on what I know. So.
Yeah, that diversity perspective, the diverse perspective. No, I think that's those are themes that I hear a lot about working with foundations these days. Really how to look at grant making through an inclusive lens. And I love two of the things you said kind of early on. No amount of giving is too little. I think that's really powerful, and it's not what you give, but it's what is needed. So I love those two quotes. I'd love to ask you, Christy. What have you learned about watching young people make grants, and over the course of the couple years that you've been involved in the program, or several years? What have you learned?
I've learned that it's difficult for them to come up with just like that one theme. So one of the things that we do in the course is that we make them select a theme where they're going to focus on. So we don't just go and invite hundreds of organizations that are serving all different causes. And so it's difficult because they have so many things that they're passionate about, whether it's education, social justice initiatives, the environment. But to really be able, but they're also so open to hearing different perspectives. I think they have this trust that sometimes you don't see in adults, and they're willing to go with a theme that might not be their first choice because their classmate is really passionate about it. So that's been something that's been exciting for us, is that journey. What we do is, last year we had each of them create a podcast for a theme that they were really passionate about, and they had to do their pitch on, this is why I want to have the money donated to an environmental organization or one around social justice. And then we all listened to each other's podcast, and eventually we voted. And I remember the class saying, why do we have to make a decision now? Can we just make it next week? And we pushed them, because life is also sometimes about making difficult decisions. And I think that's a really valuable skill for them to learn.
Wonderful. Bill, can you tell us a little bit, or elaborate a little bit more on, I guess what maybe your biggest source of pride in watching the program unfold has been? You spoke about it a little bit, but
yeah, no, absolutely. And what I'm proudest of is what is on display here today, and specifically what has just been discussed, which is the struggle. It is difficult. It's difficult when you're sitting in a room by yourself to really know yourself and make a well-reasoned decision. It's particularly difficult, I believe, when you're in a room with peers and adults who are saying, no, we can't all do what we individually want to do. We are going to come together and support a particular area of giving, and eventually a single grant recipient. That is hard, and that is hard because it's hard in life, and it's an important component of the course. It's hard by design. So the fact that these students are struggling with this and saying, this was hard, but I really appreciated it, and Christy saying, we do this to them intentionally, makes me very proud. I mean, because again, I think there's so much more need in the world than there are resources to address that need, that struggling to figure out how to allocate those resources is a really valuable experience.
Absolutely. Lisa, can you talk a little, we've heard, you guys are all very, very articulate, so I think you're already answering a lot of the questions I had, but can you talk a little more specifically about how you see the Philanthropy Initiative connected to issues of social justice and equity?
Sure. I mean, just that as a school, we believe that it's not just mastery of content that we want our students to leave with, that we believe that we have a responsibility to help shape them as ethical citizens of the world who, again, share their talents and what they have of treasure with the whole community. So we look at our graduates in a little different way, not just in terms of what college they go to, but what kind of people are they? It's a very academically motivated, rigorous school, and our hope is that not only do they do well in the world, but they do good in the world too. So we appreciate that we have the opportunity to engage our students in conversations about equity, inclusion, and what do those terms mean? How do they affect your life personally? How do they affect others in the community that you might not be aware of? So just even diving into those really thoughtful conversations at this very developmental age is such a worthwhile experience. And Christy and I really tried to make the course very student-centered. And though we provide structure and framework, we really allow our students to drive the course and the conversations that we have, because we want them to have a meaningful experience as well. For example, just even getting down to the topic or the theme of where they want to apply the grant to is a very difficult process to engage in, because everyone comes in with saying, I really care about supporting underserved youth, and that's what I'm going to put the $20,000 to. But then at the end of the discourse, you can see their hearts and their minds open up to hearing others and their viewpoints and causes that they want to support. So it's just a beautiful, very revealing process that, again, we're all very privileged to be part of and engage in at our school. And to have it in a school setting where it is safe to have those conversations and the trust that our students have with one another is really powerful.
Yeah. Luke and Eugene, can you talk about a challenge that you've had? You addressed one, I think, a little bit earlier, but elaborate maybe on that one or another one. It'd be great to hear.
Okay. I think we touched on it a little bit. I think for me, absolutely the biggest challenge was picking an organization and picking a theme. I think there are many times when we were picking a theme, we were torn between the issue of environment and the issue of underserved youth and getting underprivileged kids into college. And were there multiple times when people would switch their stances, and it got so heated at some points. We had to take a break, but it was that was for me just the biggest challenge, because when you're faced with other people and they have differing opinions from you, I think the first reaction is to fight them, is to say you're wrong. But I think being able to say maybe there's some truth to what you're saying. I think that's kind of what was most difficult for me personally to be able to say, instead of being as hardline as I could on what I wanted to get done, being able to acknowledge other people's opinions and being able to take those into my own and improve my ideas was, I think, a big challenge for me personally.
What all of us did before giving out the 20,000 grant was all 9 of us engaged in public service opportunities within our communities. And we did that for a month, and I worked at a nearby church, which I was assigned to, and I realized that I was growing really impatient at that moment, because I feel like I wasn't giving enough. I could have done more, but I feel like I had this moment of, am I really contributing to the church? I mean, if they really like me or not. So I was having these thoughts. And as I said, I was growing impatient with myself, because I really wanted to give that 20,000 away really quickly. Really reflecting on that moment, I think taking the time and being persistent with even the smallest thing, like nearby community service projects, actually made it easier for me to make some decisions during the grant process. So that challenge served me well.
Yeah, yeah. So now I want to open it up to the audience for questions. There's a couple ways that you can ask a question. You can either come up here and speak through the microphone and ask your question, or you can ask and I'll repeat it for the live stream audience. For those on the live stream, feel free to type your question into the chat box and we'll read them out loud. So I'd love to get any questions. Yes. And please say your name as well and
My
where you're
name is
from.
Amy Johnson, and I've been fortunate to do similar programs at the middle school level years ago when I was teaching in middle school. My question for you, and I don't know really who it would be directed, probably not you guys, as much as Amy, is have you been able to track any of your alumni to see how this particular program has impacted their choices at the collegiate level or beyond high school, or get any data on their personal giving? I know the program's only been around for so long, but or is there any attempt to do that?
Okay, let me repeat the question so everyone on the live stream can ask. So the question was, have you been able to track your alumni and see how that's kind of impacted where they've gone, especially at the collegiate level? Is that right?
So Lisa and I, we're going to be going into our 4th year teaching. And so I would say personally, tracking them and just maintaining really close relationships with them, yes. And I'm fascinated to see what they go on to study and what they're interested in. And a lot of it does go back to serving their community. But I would say that's also the mission of our school. It's not just students that take this philanthropy class. It's really anyone that graduates. Our hope is that they're going to contribute to the world through their time, treasure, or talents.
And I'm going to expand that question and ask you both at the end, how do you think this is going to change, what you might do in college or beyond?
So I absolutely could see this impacting what I do beyond college. I think as of now, like, people ask me all the time, what do you want to do in college? And I'm like, I don't know. But I know afterwards, this class has really taught me, like, when I do get a job and when I do have the opportunity to give, that I will give. Because before this class, I didn't really think about philanthropy at all, and it never was something that crossed my mind. I never thought, what if instead of buying this new computer, I could give this money away? That was never something that crossed my mind. But I think now that I've taken this class, I'll be able to, as an adult, say, okay, maybe I can give a little bit because I had a good month this month or whatever. So I think that's definitely something that will be on my mind as an adult, for sure.
Yeah, I think what we also did was we were fortunate to go to the Stanford, I don't remember quite the name, but Stanford Philosophy? Center for Philanthropy.
Yeah.
And it was great to know that there was, beyond the high school level, that there was an opportunity to engage in the collegiate level. So being able to experience that opportunity was really impactful. I think throughout the 3 months that I've taken this class, I think I could say that all of us built a habit of giving. And as I said, or as everybody said, it's not about just money, but knowing that you can impact people in different ways.
Yeah, so your outlook has changed and kind of your idea of how you can contribute. Any other questions from the audience? I know you're all burning to ask a question. Yes.
I have a small nonprofit that we're looking to grow bigger quickly. We address the emotional needs of traumatized kids, and right now it's refugee kids. And we need a website, we need a lot of things that an intern high school student can do. How do I go about finding out where to apply?
Yeah, so the question is, what's your name?
Samantha Greer.
Samantha has a nonprofit that works with trauma, you said, and works with refugees and looking for a high school student or an intern to contribute. Where can she find someone like that?
Yeah, definitely. We would love to connect after, get some information from you, because it could be one of our service projects or just one of our students working through the public purpose program. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, I'm Rhiannon, and I have a question about the mechanics of how you go about deciding who to give the grants to. Do you follow kind of a traditional grant-making process where you site visit the organization? And I guess when you receive 100 applications, how do you go about narrowing down? Because obviously you're not going to site visit 100.
Yeah, so just to repeat the question really quick, the question was, what is the mechanics of the program? How do you go about processing all the applications, narrowing them down? Do you do site visits, et cetera?
It's quite a process in a short amount of time. Just to let you know, it's a semester-long course, so that's from January to June. And the first third of the course, we work with the students with some context and background about what is philanthropy, what is giving, why give, so kind of to set the foundation. And then the third of the course, the students are part of our service learning project and have opportunities to help local organizations and give of their time and their talent. Just to give them some hands-on experience. And then the last third of the course, they dive into the grant-making process, which includes everything from identifying a theme that the whole class wants to rally around and give to writing the actual application. So they generate their own RFP, send out an invitation to organizations that they have researched to invite them to the RFP process. And then there's about 2 weeks in which the organizations respond to our request. And then after receipt of that proposal, the students, we help them through a process of creating a rubric based on criteria that they feel are important, whether it's the leadership of the organization, their theory of change, how they measure success, what they're going to do with the $20,000 grant. So they rate and rank each proposal and organization based on this criteria. And then they move to the phase where they do a ranking, and out of those 50 organizations, we identify the semifinalists. So maybe that's 10 to 12 organizations, and then we open up the class discussion about which of those 12 organizations we should move into the finalist round. And with those finalist organizations, we go on site visits and engage with them and the leadership of that organization more deeply to find out more about who they are and their thoughts about being a grant recipient, how they measure success, so on and so forth. And then after the site visits and those in-depth conversations, the class, chooses an organization of their choice. 2 years ago, the class actually decided to split the $20,000 grant to 2 organizations that they felt they really wanted to support. So it varies year to year. As I mentioned, it's very student-centered and student-driven, so there is some flexibility within a very structured timeline that Christine and I follow.
Yes. Jen again. Question for Luke and Eugene. If you could tell the adults in this room a couple of things that they need to do to let you guys actually do your thing, what do they have to do to support you?
Okay, let me repeat the question. So Eugene and Luke, if you had to tell the adults in the room one thing or a couple things to let them allow you to do what you want to do, what would it be?
I think in terms of philanthropy, I think for an adult to help someone of our age to do this work, I think definitely not necessarily 100% free reign, but I think a certain amount of freedom has to be given to the students because I know when we were doing this work for me, I got pretty passionate about it, and I really felt like I wanted to make a difference. And the last thing I really wanted was, I guess a parent type figure, say telling me exactly what to do, how to do it. And because I think this is work that translates into our lives after this and can really have an impact on us as a person. So I think allowing us to make our own decisions and to kind of run with those decisions and see how they play out and having to go through problem solving, I think that's really important for an adult helping a kid doing this. Yeah.
I think it's important to address that question right there. How is youth giving building communities and leaders? And I think
So for the live stream audience, Eugene is pointing to a mural that we have here in the room that says, "How is youth giving building communities and leaders?" And people have written answers.
yeah, and I think every answer really boils down to trust and how much trust you have as an adult to both regulate the process while letting, as Luke said, letting things go, and really trusting the students to know the community as they experience it. So yeah, I think that's a really important question. I'm glad that's up there.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I feel like some of the things that you've talked about, especially with trust, I mean, I've been in the professional workforce for about a decade now, and so many of these principles and values that you're talking about are exactly what we, think about and what matter in our work. So it's incredible to kind of hear that you're considering them as well. We have another question.
Yes, I'm Cordell. I'm with an organization. So related to what Jen just said, what kind of panel that does these grants? Is it like board of trustees or board of directors, or that's a question to Eugene and Luke?
Okay, so the question was, what kind of panel does this program use? Is it like a board of trustees, or how is it structured? So I think the question is, how do you guys make your decisions, essentially?
Oh,
Like,
okay,
what's
yeah. All right, so essentially, so there are 9 of us in the class, and we kind of, basically to make our decision, we'd sit around at a table. First, we'd kind of say, like, all right, in order for us to make a decision, we need 2/3 to agree. And then we just kind of go very free form, just kind of open discussion, and we just kind of have at it. Like, someone would say, all right, well, I think we should do this. And then someone would say, well, no, I think we should do this. And then it would just, not argumentative, but very much a discussion and very much, it's just free-form discussion, I think.
Actually, before that, there was a rubric, as Lisa mentioned, and it was based on certain categories like leadership, their potential, and things like that. And I think that also goes to the challenging question. It's really hard to quantify their potential and their leadership, because everything, I mean, we can't say because this leader is not qualified or didn't go to a good university, we're not going to give the grant to them. Like, that's just unfair. But that was also part of our category, and we assigned, I think, we reduced it. It was originally 20%, but we reduced it to, I think, 10 or 15%, and we increased the percentage of other important factors. So after doing that, we go on to Luke's process of, I think, 10 organizations where we actually debate and come together to discuss.
Yeah. So I can see we're running kind of close to the end of our time together. So we had 2 questions come in over the live stream chat. So I'm going to say both of the questions, one right after the other, and I'm going to open it up to anyone on the panel to answer the questions. So the first one is youth grant making meant to widen the perspective of youth grant makers? Is the idea to involve youth because they bring new perspectives, which from what I'm hearing sounds like it, but I'll let you all respond. If so, what is different about their perspective? And the second question is, with students changing each year, do you try to maintain continuity and build on the previous year's work? And I'm just going to ask these other couple ones quickly, and you can answer them as you'd like. So, do the students get to form their own RFP? And then, and then Bill, how do you think about your support of this program? So, let's open it up.
I'll answer one really quickly. What was the first one? The grant making meant, for me, like, this whole idea of philanthropy is really to just instill empathy in our students. One of our first activities that we open up with is called this Good Deed Project, where we give every student $20, and we send them off. We're like, you have half an hour to go do something good with this money. And it's really fascinating to see what they do. Some of them don't spend it at all. They just go and open doors for strangers. They go and help somebody garden. They actually have to go outside of the school to go do this. And when they all return, they share out what they did in that 30 minutes. And the larger goal of that activity is to teach them you can do good every day of your life. And it doesn't have to be by always giving money or by volunteering. It's by being a good person. And for me, that's really important to instill in our students.
Yeah, I can repeat, with students changing each year, do you try to maintain continuity and build on previous year's work?
We give the students an option to do that. And we do a recap of the work that the previous class has done, but each class wants to do their own thing, and it's a different dynamic and everything. We appreciate that it is a generative, organic process given each year. But what we do is have the organization that was awarded the grant from the previous year come and speak to the current year's class about their experience within the grant process and what they have done and the impact that our 20,000 grant has made. So there is some continuity in that sense.
Yeah. Great. And do you, Eugene and Luke, get to write your own RFP?
Yeah, we get to write every question about it. I think we looked at the last year's RFP before we wrote ours, so we had a little bit of inspiration there. But yeah, we wrote ours. We kind of decided our questions. We decided what we cared about most in our RFP, and we wrote questions based on that. So it was very much what we wanted to see. We also were able to tailor our questions specifically to the type of organizations we were asking to. So we chose organizations centered around helping get youth into college and our underprivileged youth into college. And so we were able to focus our questions around that. So we didn't have just like a general RFP. It was very focused, and I think it really helped the organizations a lot. Yeah.
Okay. And final question, because we really need to be wrapping up, is so Bill, how do you think about your support of this program? Is it in support of youth development, community development, philanthropy's future?
Well, I think it's all of the above. My wife and I were really interested in at the most basic level, kind of making a positive change at Lick-Wilmerding High School. We saw who was attracted to the school and who was attending to the school, and we thought we might be able to expand and improve the student experience. Wearing a Board of Trustees hat, you improve the student experience. Perhaps they come back and they support the school when they go out into the world and have the means to do so. So that was something that was playing in the back of our mind. The other thing is, we saw this as an opportunity to use some of our own resources and get the leverage of a fantastic student body and teaching staff to make more significant change in the world. So, we really think about this not in terms of specifically youth development or specifically Lick-Wilmerding High School, but as an idea that, we trusted the leadership and the faculty and staff at the school to kind of bring into fruition. And, you talked so much about the importance of, having the adults trust you so that you could go out and do your own thing. I mean, that's one of the things that my wife and I felt very strongly about when we gave this gift to the school was we're going to trust you to figure out what you need to make this work for your students, and we've just stayed back. And as I say, we've been thrilled year by year with the results of the programs, the experience the students have had, the reflection that Christy and Lisa provide to us every year, and the sense of there being kind of a mode of continuous improvement in the program so that it gets better and better and more impactful every year.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think we're going to leave it on that really, I think, positive note of trust and the importance of, that principle in allowing youth to really shine and kind of show you what they can do. So I'd like everyone to join me in thanking Eugene, Luke, Bill, Lisa, and Christy on the panel for their time. And want to thank everyone.